e-procurement end to end, from the beginning, from when you requisition all the way to payment. You can't interact with a lot of papers. In addition, we are challenging both levels of government to enhance integration and mainstreaming of ICT in all sectors. I will say a few things also on what we want to do as counties. As the chair of the ICT, I have interacted with some few people, especially the partners, which we appreciate our CS for bringing us together. As counties, I am trying to persuade my colleague governors to ensure that we make it very easy for all those who are laying fiber in all our counties. I have led by example by ensuring that in my county, if you want to lay fiber in any part of my county, it is free to do so, so long as you are just within the law, so that I'm not charging you anything. As an economist, I made the calculation. I may charge you 50,000 or something like 100,000 or even $1 million for the way lives. And I compared it with the amount of opportunity that my young people can get, the employments that they can get when I have a fiber laid to a place known as Tot, where there is a lot of cattle rustling and people are carrying guns in this generation. I realized that it could be more beneficial for me to forego the revenue and actually get more connectivity in my county. It makes more sense. And I'm really campaigning with my governors. And when we were sitting with my PS last week, PS Tanui and the CS, he just showed me a message from one of the counties I will not mention, that some of his people at the ICT authority were complaining that a governor, or not a governor, but governance officials were actually harassing someone who was laying fiber. And I think it was ICT authority or something. I realized that is a big challenge that we need to do, so that as counties we play and we support this process. I also want to say that we have a huge opportunity at the counties. I want to request all partners in the ICT. Of course, Nairobi has been our headquarters for so long. I want to tell you, at the counties, the talent that is there is even much more. And if you go to a place, for example, like the famous Bomet, the Mulot, those guys are too talented. If you were to set up some of these and support our counties, you will get those Bomet guys. And they were too daring that last week when we were with the PS here in Mombasa, their governor actually of Bomet is my member of my committee. And they are too daring. They took over the phone of the governor, and they were calling, including the wife of the governor, using his phone, and he has his phone with us. We were shocked how those guys are really can be able. So if you want to do cyber security, let us hire the thug to actually be the one helping us to do this. So I want to say that as we move forward, I'm requesting that we ensure that we move some of these things to counties. There is huge potential in our counties so that we can be able to continue. There is an opportunity also at the county level. For example, we are dealing with anything agriculture, and we have a huge gap in terms of information on agricultural extension services. I met some guy introduced to me by a World Bank official some time back. He has a small gadget that has all agricultural information, how to plant maize, how to do dairy. He has a lot of that information, and he had a small gadget that acts as a projector at the same time as some small sound. And actually, you don't need to be an agricultural extension expert to actually go to a place like a hall like this and you project and you talk to dairy farmers. I was thinking that we can transform all our sectors at the county level by ensuring that we leverage on technology. There is also a final thing that I wanted us to do. I was in Toronto, Canada, some few months ago, and AI has been used in several other ways. And it took me some few minutes to think about my professor who taught me economics in the university, that he was using a course outline which he kept photocopying, and I suspect he might have developed it in 1990, 1991, thereabout. When I was in Canada, they told me they update their course outlines every 4 months. I told them how. They say they they use artificial intelligence to scan the internet and to scan every job opportunity in Canada and across the world. And it brings out some of the latest skills that are required in the sectors, in each and every sector. And they update their course outline to match what is happening in the world and the job market. So that is some things that IT can be able to help us so that as a country we move forward. Because as we sit currently, we are training with skills that are not required in the field. And that is why we have few people in the ICT sector. We really need to move. And this conference, I will really hope that we get out and try to advise our government in that term Canadian education system. I was shocked to find that if you are in an IT class, there is a professor, traditional professor paid by the university to teach you IT. But once in a while, a Safaricom head of systems or somebody from the sector has 2 hours every day. If you are doing something like breweries or EABL, for example, the EABL guy who does real brewing goes to a chemical engineering class and every week gets 2 hours. That means that any graduate who comes out of that class directly goes to the sector and starts to work. Same to IT. I am hoping that today, as we speak, let us see how we can marry education and also what is happening in the actual in the field. So I want to, with all those many remarks, I want to appreciate our CS, our Prime Cabinet Secretary. I must tell you, please pass our regards to the President, that he gave a good a tone at the top, you yourself, the deputy yourself, and again they gave us a powerful, powerful cabinet secretary in the name of David Owalo, who is very passionate. We have PS, who has been in Konza all his years, and we have now a team in ICT Authority doing a wonderful job. If we are not going to make it this time, then there is no other time that we are supposed to make it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's my duty and honor now to invite our Cabinet Secretary, Mheshimiwa Eliud Owalo. And as he comes, I want to be the guinea pig of any ICT. So any partner, if you want to try anything, please come to Elgeyo Marakwet County. I'll ensure that you don't win. Thank you very much and God bless you.
I am happy that I stand here to welcome all of you to Nairobi, Kenya, the green city in and under the sun. Karibu sana Nairobi.
Secretary.
Kenya hakuna matata. I am delighted to join all of us today
ably assisted by my communication peers, Professor Kisiangani.
Making everybody comfortable in the judiciary of Kenya.
The governor of Elgeyo Marakwet,
it's not lost on any.
Also the ICT chair of the Council of Governors. Legislators present, led by my friend KJ Kiare, who is the chair of the ICT Committee of the National Assembly, and of course the vice chair of the ICT Committee of the Senate, the CEOs and captains of industry present here today, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Morning again. It is indeed my pleasure this morning to be with you here for this very, very important forum, which is now on its 12th edition. May I start by sincerely thanking the Prime Cabinet Secretary for getting time out of his very, very busy schedule to be with us this morning. In the same vein, I want to appreciate everyone who has elected to participate in this forum, either physically or virtually. And to all of you, I've got no hesitation in stating that as an ICT ministry, we owe you a great debt of gratitude. I also want to thank the ICT Authority for making all the requisite preparations to make this forum a success. And last but not least, may I singularly appreciate the support and cooperation from our partners in the industry and also our donors towards this particular event that has facilitated successful preparations towards this forum. To all of you, thank you very much. If you ask me, against the background of what has been stated by previous speakers, that quite a number of initiatives have come out of this forum. And just to mention but a few, The e-citizen platform was a product of discussions at this forum. The Oduma Centers is a product of discussions or resolutions emanating from this forum. So we can confidently state, ladies and gentlemen, that this forum is not just a learning platform, but also a thought leadership forum that informs everything that we are doing as an ICT sector in this country. I verily believe, ladies and gentlemen, that with concerted efforts from all the players, we can, in the not too distant future, perhaps within the next 3 years, we can be talking about an African connected summit here in Kenya. And in the next 5 years, we can confidently be talking about hosting a global connected summit here in Kenya. And the opportunities emanating from that, ladies and gentlemen, will be enormous. The theme of this summit is endless opportunities, the digital economy, endless opportunities, shaping our future. This theme, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very much in tandem with what the policy framework of the Kenya Kwanza government is. It is an opportunity or a forum through which we can take stock of what we have done as ICT sector players in this country. We can recognize the fundamental milestones that we have realized. We can discern the challenges that we have faced and the strategic issues emanating from those challenges that we need to address moving forward. We can look at the gaps and the corresponding interventions that we need to undertake to close those gaps. We can look at the lessons that we have learned in the course of implementing past resolutions of this forum and how those lessons can inform what we need to do moving forward, ladies and gentlemen. It is also a forum that can enable us to contextualize our operational environment to be able to discern what we need to do, informed by the policy frameworks that exist, political factors, economic factors, social, technological, environmental, and even legal factors in our operational environment, ladies and gentlemen. Based on or informed by that contextual analysis, we should therefore be able, as an ICT fraternity or family, to determine our critical success factors moving forward that should then inform our areas of focus. As government, based on policy postulation that is espoused in our Kenya Kwanza plan, of course, spearheaded by none other than His Excellency the President and ably assisted by the Deputy President and the Prime Cabinet Secretary, in their wisdom, they determined that ICT was going to be a standalone thematic area in our Kenya Kwanza plan. The digital superhighway, ladies and gentlemen, was deemed as a key result area in our plan because ICT is not just an enabler to everything that we are going to do, but it is also a critical success factor moving forward, and perhaps the only means through which we can re-engineer our processes across the board moving forward. And in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, as government, we have already embarked on the process of rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable. We are currently at the threshold of 25,000 kilometers of fiber, and we believe that over the next 5 years we shall have attained the envisaged 100,000 5,000 kilometers. Between now and June, we have already put in place all the necessary mechanisms to ensure that we do an additional 5,000 kilometers of fiber. As part of the ICT infrastructure that we need to introduce based on our Kenya Kwanza digital superhighway, we are also going ahead to establish and operationalize a minimum of 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots spread evenly all over the country. We have embarked on this process, ladies and gentlemen, by targeting those segments of the society that may not be connected at the moment, but are involved in integral economic activities at the bottom of the economic pyramid. And in this regard, this process has been rolled out targeting markets and also targeting bus terminals where our youth are domiciled so that they can get involved in gainful economic activity. Within the markets, we are targeting the itinerary traders so that they can leverage on technology for purposes of e-commerce. But within the bus terminal, we are targeting the youth who hitherto were not involved in gainful employment but can leverage on technology to exploit their skills and capabilities. We are going a step further also, ladies and gentlemen, to establish a minimum of 1,450 ICT hubs in the villages, domiciled at the level of the ward, which is our lowest administrative unit. Similarly, to facilitate optimal uptake of the ICT infrastructure that we are introducing in the operational environment, we are embarking on a major digital skills program. You are aware that we have been rolling out the Hajira program. We have now introduced the Jitume program. The purpose of this, ladies and gentlemen, is to ensure that Kenyans, a critical mass of Kenyans, will have the requisite digital skills to facilitate optimal uptake of the ICT infrastructure that we are introducing in the marketplace. While doing this, I must recognize from the onset that the input of the private sector is imperative. For example, when it comes to the 100,000 kilometers of fiber, our proposition as government is that we will do just 52% or 52,000 kilometers, while we leave the rest to the private, 48% to the private sector. We have already had meetings to discuss and agree on who plays or rolls out what component of that fiber, and come out of those meetings with resolutions as to the responsibility centers for rolling out the fiber, the timelines, the targets, and all that appertains to it. So I can state without fear of contradiction, ladies and gentlemen, that as government and working in partnership with the private sector, we will ensure that all those parts of the country that hitherto were not adequately enabled by way of ICT infrastructure will get enabled. Now, the question that we need to ask ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, is if with that level of ICT infrastructure in place, plus corresponding levels of digital skills, do we really still need manual processes? And the answer is a clear no. And that is why, as government, we have gone ahead to embark on the process of digitizing government records while at the same time digitalizing government services. We have reached out to the county governments, and just last week we had got a meeting with the ICT committee of the Council of Governors and also all the CECs responsible for the functional mandate of ICT at the counties, so that correspondingly the counties also do what we are doing at the national government level by way of digitizing records and also digitalizing services. As we speak, the e-citizen platform that hitherto was in the hands of the private sector is now a full-fledged government facility, When we took it over 2 months ago, ladies and gentlemen, we only had 350 services aboard that technological platform. As at today, we have attained the threshold of 4,200 government services aboard the e-Citizen platform, ladies and gentlemen. So, Your Excellency, for purposes of comfort, I want to state that the proposition that has been espoused in public by none other than His Excellency the President, that we will digitalize 5,000 government services by June 2023, is both realistic and attainable. If anything, we will surpass the target. We have already identified about 5,700 government services that can possibly be digitalized. So that is work in progress, and we will meet the target as required. The other area, ladies and gentlemen, where we have made significant strides is the area of e-commerce. With technological innovation, plus the corresponding levels of innovation and creativity, it is our proposition that we embark on e-commerce as opposed to the traditional way of doing business, and to anchor this on a sound framework. We have already developed the e-commerce strategy, and a policy document also is in place. We are going ahead to come up with a national addressing system that would facilitate e-commerce across all sectors of the Kenyan economy. We envisage that both the public and private sector will be able to leverage on that framework, so that we move our businesses from manual processes to technological processes, starting with all the way across the entire value chain, starting with the source of raw materials up to the market, or by extension, the final consumer, if you want to call it. In terms of entrepreneurship, Your Excellency, as a ministry, of course, working with the private sector, we also believe that we can leverage on technology to introduce major initiatives within the Kenyan economy. As we speak, you are aware, which has just been presented by Safaricom, Bwana Njuguda of Safaricom, that we have partnered with the telecommunication companies to roll out the Hustler Fund, which is a major introduction in the market within our thematic area of the small and medium enterprises. That Hustler Fund is being rolled out while leveraging on technology, and also we are relying on technological platforms for purposes of repayment. If that's the case, then what we need to ask ourselves is whether or not the critical mass of Kenyans who are operating at the bottom of the economic pyramid.
Well, and welcome. That is the Connected Kenya Summit that is taking place in Diani, and this is one event that the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is going to be taking care of. My name is Daniel Wahome, and at the moment, moving away from Diani, I'll be bringing you back to the capital, and this is moving on to the Safari Park Hotel. And what is going on there is that there is the third regional symposium on greening judiciaries in Africa, and incorporating the third Chief Justice's Forum on Environmental Law and the third General Conference of the Africa Judicial Education Network on Environmental Law, AJENEL. And speaking right now is Chief Justice, the Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome. Let us join in that, and later, His Excellency the President will be addressing the conference.
Or the effect of the climate change. This is enough to bring us together. And for us, in the Kenyan judiciary, we view hosting regional judiciaries dialogues also as a means of fostering the development of African jurisprudence that is responsive to the unique concerns and aspirations of our continent. It is our vision to create a robust and dynamic platform for knowledge exchange, for our capacity building and collaboration among African judiciaries. enabling us to better understand, interpret, and apply the law to promote the social development and transformation of our respective judiciaries. In this context, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we view this 3-in-1 symposium on climate change as part of regional judicial dialogue aimed at providing a platform for us African judges and judicial officers to exchange ideas, learn from each other, and acquire the requisite knowledge, skills, and tools needed to effectively address the challenges facing our continent. As we all know, our continent is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Our people, our economies, and our natural resources are all at risk as we grapple with the devastating consequences of biodiversity. It is within this context that our courts must play a decisive role in driving the adaptation, mitigation, and resilience building efforts required to combat climate change and to secure a sustainable future for our people. Indeed, our courts are the guardians of the rule of law and protectors of the constitutional rights, including the fundamental right to a clean and healthy environment. As judges, we have unique responsibility of interpreting and applying the law in a manner that promotes environmental sustainability, social equity, and intergenerational justice. This requires us to be bold, to be innovative, and proactive in our approach to environmental litigation, ensuring that our decisions and judgments contribute to the realization of a greener, more resilient Africa. In Kenya, we have made significant strides in promoting a transformative environmental constitutionalism that is rooted in the provisions of our Constitution and the jurisprudence of our National Environmental Tribunal and the Environment and Land Court and other superior courts. Our courts have played a critical role in advancing environmental justice in Kenya by interpreting and applying the Constitution and other laws in a manner that promotes sustainable use and management of our land and natural resources. But moving forward from this symposium, we are saying we need to work with everybody else and also build their capacities and build their awareness about environmental protection. And as we look to the future, it is imperative that our judiciaries in Africa will continue to play a proactive role in the fight against climate change and building successes and lessons learned from our experiences thus far. We must be unyielding in our pursuit for justice, ensuring that our decisions and judgments contribute to the realization of a greener, more resilient and sustainable Africa. In this regard, I call my brother and sister Chief Justices and judges present here today. We all join hands in a united front against climate change. We leverage on our collective wisdom, expertise, and our power of convening others to develop a jurisprudence that is uniquely African and responsive to our shared concerns. Let us collaborate, let us learn from one another, and share our experiences as we work together to build a brighter, more sustainable future for our continent and our people. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, allow me to reiterate that as guardians of the rule of law and the protectors of the constitutional rights of our people, we have a unique responsibility to ensure that our decisions and judgments contribute to greener, resilient, and sustainable Africa. To reaffirm our commitment to the cause of environmental justice and to pledge our unwavering support to all the efforts that have been put together by our respective judiciaries in combating climate change. Together we can make a difference, and together we can build a brighter, more sustainable future for our continent and our people. I wish you all a very, very fruitful and enriching symposium, and I am confident that our deliberations in the next few days will yield meaningful insights and lasting partnerships that will serve to strengthen our collective resolve in the fight against climate change. Once again, Your Excellency, I extend a very, very warm welcome to our guests to Nairobi, and pray that our shared efforts in pursuit of environmental justice will bear fruit for generations to come. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, my lords and ladies, please join me as I welcome His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, to address this gathering and officially open the symposium. Welcome, sir, to come address us.
Please, let's take our seats. Madam Chief Justice and President of our Supreme Court, Madam Deputy Chief Justice, Chief Justice Emeritus, the Honorable Willie Mutunga and the Honorable David Maraga, Chief Justices from various parts of our continent, judges of the Supreme Court, distinguished judicial officers from different parts of our continent, ladies and gentlemen, and our visitors, good morning and welcome. Welcome to Nairobi and welcome to Kenya. I join Madam Chief Justice for the convener of this symposium in welcoming you to both Nairobi and Kenya. Let me volunteer some information about Nairobi and about Kenya. About Nairobi, this is the city that has a national park within 10 minutes from your hotel. So you may find some lion or cheetah, because sometimes they escape from the national park. Please be careful, because they are not domesticated. Welcome to Kenya. And again, on this one, I speak with the authority of a scientist, being a scientist myself, that science has proved that Kenya is the cradle of mankind. You may find yourself having this feeling that you are more at home here than from where you come from. Please understand that this is where we all started, and we can tell you, welcome home. And it is inspiring to be here to witness Africa's judicial leadership as you mobilize your judicial authority, intellectual power, and moral commitment to intervene in our generation's defining struggle. I am highly encouraged to note the depth of thought in your appreciation of the existential magnitude of climate change and of the imperative for urgent action by all stakeholders anchored on common. Although climate change is a universal existential threat, there is good reason for Africa's institutions and leadership to drive the agenda of mitigating its effects and eliminating the human activity that is driving it. The first reason is the fact that Africa is by far the least polluting continent, yet it is by far the most adversely affected by climate change. The entirety of industrial and economic activity from all of the continent's economies contributes less than 5% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. These emissions are the cause of a steady and dangerous rise in global temperatures, which have resulted in the extinction of plants and animal species, rise in sea levels, disruptions in climate patterns, drought, and desertification. The brunt of these adverse effects and impacts has been borne by vulnerable African populations residing in less developed parts of the world. Droughts are more frequent and more severe. Our region has undergone a 5-season-long drought, which has decimated domestic and wild animal populations, wiped out food crops, disrupting and threatening the lives of millions of people. Water stress caused by climate change has been devastating, both directly and as a driver of conflict over water and pastures. Poverty has been exacerbated by loss of livestock, which forms the mainstay of pastoralist economic livelihoods, and massive crop failure, which weakened the foundations of farming economies. In addition to drought, African populations are experiencing floods, heat waves, and outbreak of climate change-related diseases. African livelihood, security, and development is in danger and will remain at stake unless we collectively wage aggressive combat to reverse the situation through policies and other institutional action to implement mitigation, enhance adaptation, and build resilience. The looming climate disaster is particularly tragic for Africa, which is entering a new, promising era of peace and prosperity as the continent of the future. Many vital indicators affirm that indeed Africa is rising, powered by its youthful population, energy, resources, and hope. It is important for Africa to undertake concerted action to win the war on climate change because it is disproportionately affected by its institute structural change. The institutional configurations and economic resets emanating from this structural change will install Africa not only as a continent of the future, but as the world's green economic superpower. Africa is abundantly endowed with all the resources required to power green industrialization. Our clean and green power potential is incomparable. Just to give you indications, 92% of our grid in Kenya is clean and green. It is the case in many other African countries, and the potential to make it the case in many African nations is real and is possible. Our clean and green power potential, as I said, is immense. Hydro, geothermal, wind, and solar power potential is super abundant. The mineral resources needed for green energy technology also exists plentifully in our continent. We are the world's youngest continent, with a mean age of 25 and growing younger every year. Our people constitute a 3 billion strong market and a pool of skilled, motivated, and capable workforce. Future global sustainability will depend on a robust engagement with Africa in many fundamental ways. The world knows this, and African institutions and stakeholders must be ready for this engagement. And that is why this symposium is very important. I am very proud of the firm commitment demonstrated by the African Union in this matter at COP27, which was held last November in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Africa's voice was clear. The development path taken by the world's economic and industrial powers is unsustainable and prejudicial to Africa and the global South. Climate change has brought home that fact in sobering detail. Africa is emphatic that although prosperity is an urgent goal to liberate our people from the indignity of poverty and inequality, the path of pollution is not an option. The African Union prefers a more ecologically responsible industrialization, one that promotes multi-sectoral climate resilience in agriculture and food systems, water resources, energy, transport and infrastructure, among others. We also insist, quite firmly, that international development financing must be more appropriate for the needs of our existential moment in terms of how much resources is accessible, affordable, and adequate. In February, I was encouraged to witness the impressive level of activity accomplished by African group of negotiators, especially at COP27, as well as the various African climate change initiatives. The Committee of African Heads of State and Governments on Climate Change, which I chair, also coordinates various African climate change commissions that are doing extremely important work in many regions of our continent to implement the Africa climate change and green recovery agenda. I'm also honored to lead Kenya's participation in these regional, continental, and climate actions. It is a privilege to join our African brothers and sisters in this good fight and make our contribution to the defining struggle of our generation. Africa is alive to the imperative of this moment in a way that is simply inspiring. I will share with you Kenya's experience of this journey so far. From the very inception, our aspirations for economic development and shared prosperity has been inextricably tied to a firm commitment to environmental sustainability. In my earlier statement, I did paint the picture of where we are as a continent. I mean, the power of industrialization that has been premised on fossil fuels, despite its adverse effects, is what has driven industrialization in the world so far. The world today is at a crossroads. The crossroads being, do we continue the fossil fuel powered industrialization, which is destroying our globe with disastrous effects, or do we go green? I think that decision is no longer a decision that we are waiting to make. It is an existential threat that faces us as humanity, and the option is already made for us that we can only go green. Why Africa is in a pivotal position as we go green is because, number one, Africa has the highest reserves and potential for green energy, whether it is geothermal, wind, solar, hydro. No other part of the world has the resources we have. Number two, we have the resources in our continent, the mineral resources, the natural resources, for green energy technology. Number three, we have the greatest potential for green, sustainable agriculture and food production because 2/3 of the world's uncultivated arable land is in Africa. And number four, we have the youngest population, energetic, innovative, creative. And in any case, 1/4 of the world's population will live in the African continent by 2050. So if you are looking for the people to work for this globe, for humanity, whether you like it or not, they will be in the African continent. Forget about the small migration that is happening now from Africa. Shortly, I promise you, the migration will be in the opposite direction. Very shortly. The only thing that stands between us and the huge potential we have in this continent. And I want to encourage you as Chief Justices of our continent, the only thing that stands between us and this huge potential is a financial system that was designed to serve a different time. And that is why we are insisting that we must rethink the international financial system to align with the reality and the imperative of this moment. It is not sustainable anymore for us, the IMF and the World Bank and the International Financial Institution in its current configuration. And we are not saying we want an international financial system that is favorable to Africa. No. We want an international financial system that is fair to everybody. Having a fair international financial system is not asking for too much. I think it's just asking for what is fair. We want to access development resources at the same rate as everybody else is. It is a fallacy for anybody to imagine that it is possible to grow any part of the world to the exclusion of any other part of the world. Because whether we like it or not, we share this globe. And if today anybody imagines that climate change is affecting the global south more than the global north, it won't be for long. Shortly, we will all either float or sink. So the sooner we have a fair international financial system that makes it possible for us as humanity to exploit all the resources available to us in a sustainable manner, the better for all of us as humanity. The sooner we get ourselves there, the better. As a continent, we want to have a conversation that is balanced. Even as we demand for a fair international financial system, Africa will be coming to the table with our assets. We will not be coming to the table in any other manner. We will come to the table with our assets. We have tremendous renewable energy resources that can power green industrialization, green sustainable agriculture. We will be coming to the table with millions of enthusiastic, hardworking, innovative, creative young people. We will be coming to the table with our natural and mineral resources that can be used for green technology to power the world's future. We will be coming to the table with a huge 3 billion African market. So we will be coming with assets. And I think, good people, we must make our case unapologetically so that we can occupy our place on the table. Because I am told, if you are not on the table, you possibly could be in the menu. The commitment by the people of Kenya goes further and deeper. When we enacted a new constitution in 2010, we placed the environment at the foundation of our normative and institutional architecture. The fourth paragraph of our Constitution's preamble states that our respect for the environment and determination to sustain it was one of the motivating premises in enacting our Constitution. Article 42 entrenches a clean and healthy environment as a fundamental human right, while Article 67 and 70 set out the framework for the enforcement of environmental rights and obligations. Once we enter the domain of rights and obligations, the respective mandates of the three arms of government automatically follow. Article 21, the state is required as a fundamental duty to take legislative, policy, and other measures required to actualize these rights. Because of the centrality of land in economic and social and cultural and environmental discourse, the Constitution institutes a robust framework for land and environmental governance with a dedicated constitutional commission and the consequential establishment of the Land and Environment Division of the High Court. The court adjudicates matters related to land, including natural resources and environmental sustainability. As a matter of national policy, Kenya has been involved in environmental diplomacy since the early years of our republic. At the famous Stockholm Conference in 1972, my predecessor and all of us, we impressed on the United Nations for the need to have a dedicated multilateral environmental agency and lobbied to host it in Africa. As a result, the headquarters of the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, is based here in Nairobi. It means it remains the only UN global headquarters in the global south. And for your information, the largest. In 1992, Kenya called the world's attention to the emerging threat of depletion of the ozone layer by toxic emissions and to the buildup of greenhouse gas emissions, which posed dangerous consequences on life on Earth. Today, we remain strongly committed to our national tradition of championing ecological responsibility throughout the world, but starting here at home. In 2016, Parliament enacted the Climate Change Act, providing us the institutional framework to anchor the national response to climate change. It also legislated the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, which sets out the principles, standards, and procedures for the sustainable use, conservation, and management of the environment and all our natural resources. In December last year, I launched a national tree planting drive. The Forest and Rangeland Restoration Initiative aims to grow 15 billion trees by the year 2030, and this will increase the national tree cover from the current 12.3% to 30%, which will be 3 times the constitutionally mandated minimum of 10%. It will further contribute to our African Landscape Restoration Initiative target, as well as other initiatives to restore degraded lands, forests, and water towers. The government of Kenya is also taking measures to ensure that every ministry, department, and agency aligns its policies, strategies, programs, and projects with our green agenda. Strengthening the role of judiciaries in addressing climate change in Africa, which is the theme of this symposium, is highly appropriate, and it is also of fundamental significance to our collective readiness to take up global leadership in post-transition economic and industrial order, and thus usher the world into a future of green, clean, and inclusive prosperity. I congratulate you for holding the 3rd Regional Symposium on Green Judiciaries in Africa. I also recognize that you are also holding the 3rd Chief Justice Forum on Environmental Law, as well as the 3rd General Conference of the Africa Judicial Education Network on Environmental Law. Thank you for doing it now and hosting them here in Kenya. We are deeply honored to be your hosts, and I hope that we have lived up to your reputation to our reputation of legendary hospitality, magical attraction, and delightful experiences. Critically, this event demonstrates beyond any doubt that our judiciaries have come of age. We cannot take this development for granted because our judiciaries will determine whether Africa's institutions exist and are ready to handle the immense mandate that a green future entails for all of us and for the world. Claims, disputes, standards, rights, and responsibilities related to the use of land and natural resources, the institutional framework for financing climate change, carbon trading and exchanges, and transition management frameworks are only some of the areas in which our judiciaries are going to be involved. They must, therefore, pronounce themselves in a manner consistent with the values and aspirations of a continent on the rise. Greening our judiciaries will be inevitably multi-sectoral and interdisciplinary. Beyond local and international human rights, constitutional, environment, trade, and economic law, our judiciaries must be exposed to diverse fields such as ecology, economics, agriculture, food systems, trade and finance, carbon markets, energy, and infrastructure, just to mention a few. To fully play your part in arbitrating and auditing Africa's aspirations to lead a new industrial revolution, our judiciaries will have to collaborate across the length and breadth of our continent, engage with diverse knowledge domains, and interact with numerous sectors. They should also formulate a unified understanding of sustainability as the guarantor of prosperity, peace and security, ecological integrity, and human well-being. Your decisions will matter a great deal. They will shape climate governance, and enhance environmental justice by promoting accountability for environmental harm and facilitating collective action by all stakeholders. A few days ago, the UN General Assembly passed a resolution that the International Court of Justice renders an opinion obligating the world's biggest emitters to take responsibility for their actions. I equally challenge our judiciary to be creative and imaginative and develop jurisprudence that will enhance climate action based on the polluter pays principle. You must not underestimate your capacity because it leads to positive change. I agree with our Chief Justice's statement that our judiciary should not be left behind in this fight for our. I therefore urge you to intensify your conscious place in this historic moment and take a decision to have your voices heard for the sake of our generations and the generations yet to be born. You are here to contribute a chapter to the world's history. I encourage you to proceed and write a fresh chapter of African resilience, sustainability, and global leadership in a new green industrial age. Together with the rest of Africa, I look forward to receiving a positive report about your robust engagements and fruitful deliberations. It is now my pleasure to declare the third regional symposium on green judiciaries in Africa formally opened. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless our great continent. Asante sana.
Can we just have one more warm applause for our President, Your Excellency? Thank you for those wonderful words. We only have two things we'd like to do.
That was His Excellency, the President, Dr. William Ruto, speaking at the Safari Park Hotel, and this is at the third regional symposium on greening judiciaries in Africa. It incorporates the third Chief Justice's Forum on Environmental Law and the third General Conference of the Africa Judicial Education Network on Environmental Law, the AJNEL. It starts today and runs tomorrow and the day after at the Safari Park Hotel. And remember, His Excellency the President making a call that Africa should know that they are a powerful nation. They've got a young human resource base, and secondly, they've got a lot of natural wealth that they can use to produce green energy. So as we continue with this, remember Sarafina Robbie is going to be giving us the full report as Chief Justices from across the continent meet, and also judges who run environmental law also come in. Right now, we shall be switching over to the Connected Summit 2023 that is taking place in Diani, and speaking at the moment is Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Let's move over to Diani.
It has been withdrawn. Let us not put our citizens in that kind of situation, our businesses in that situation, our hustlers in that situation. The final one is what you're introducing, the technology that you're introducing. Is it broadening inequalities, or is it enhancing equality? If you can answer those three, as a rule of thumb, I think you'll be doing wonders for us. Growth, sustainability, and equality with your technology. God bless you all. I now declare this conference formally open.
One more round round of applause for our chief guest, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. And wonderful to hear that personal story of how government can play a facilitating role to see industry thrive. At this juncture, we'd like to release our chief guest and our other key guests as well to take their leave. There'll be a short media briefing in Kongamano room with the media. And of course, we have a few more housekeeping items as our guests take their leave. Thank you so much to our chief guest and Wana CS and our PSs as well. You may take your leave. Thank you.
As they leave the room, for the rest of us delegates present, we'll take a short health tea break stretch as we had been asked to do, 15 minutes. And because we are slightly overrun on the program, it'll be a hard stop even on the break. So please, 15 minutes. If you can synchronize and be back at midday, we'll carry on from there. So short break, 15 minutes tea break. We're back for our first plenary session. Good afternoon.
Prime Cabinet Secretary there, Musalia Mudavadi, speaking on digitization and how it will play a pivotal role in what the government wants to achieve when it comes to digital transformation. And he did talk about laying a foundation that is long-term and also ensuring there is partnership between the private sector and the public sector in ensuring that the digitization of government services as well as other areas of collaboration and partnership is achieved. Well, he also did talk about what the government has done in terms of taking significant steps towards digitization, which will facilitate, to among others, ensuring that what is expected of ICT industry players and also what is expected of the public sector to ensure that the digital master plan as well as the national ICT policy is implemented and adopted. Well, earlier on we had spoken, or rather the Cabinet Secretary for Information and Communication Digital Economy, Eliud Owalo, did speak also on some of the areas that he has, as the ministry has been working on when it comes to implementing some of the various areas that the government is touching on this in the next 5 years. And he did say that the target of digitizing government services, that is 5,000 government services, is ongoing, and it's likely to surpass the 5,000 digitization of government services by June. Remember, the target was 5,000, but now he said that they have identified 5,700 areas of possibilities that the government will look at when it comes to digitization of government services. On the superhighway, the digital superhighway, he did say that it will play a critical role in enabling Kenya to revolutionize the health sector, the agriculture sector, the Ministry of Land, the housing, and also the financial services. He said that he is, or rather they have already rolled out around 20 fiber optic cable, and within the next 5 years the government, which is supposed to lay about 52,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, will be a reality, and the private sector is expected to lay 48,000 kilometers of digital superhighway. That is according to what the CS for ICT and digital economy said earlier on. And when it comes to aspirations, this is actually in line with what the Kenya Vision 2030 is all about, with the focus of the next vision to ensure that Kenya achieves what it purposes when it comes to positioning Kenya as a global ICT hub. On digital skills, he did say that the government is doing what it needs to do by ensuring that the 1.2 or rather 1 million jobs are created online. There is ongoing partnership with TVET institutions as well as other government institutions and private sector to ensure that online jobs are created, and to ensure that training is ongoing in various counties, that when the youth come out of these TVET institutions, they are ready for the job market. On connectivity, that is the universal broadband connectivity, there were talks about partnership with county governments when it comes to rolling out of digital infrastructure. And early on, the governor for Elgeyo Marakwet did say that the county governments will play a critical role in delivering the government transformation agenda when it comes to digital transformation. And when it comes to laying of the fiber optic cable, they said they will support the government when it comes to rolling out this fiber optic cable. Well, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, together with the CS for Information Communication and Digital Economy, will head after this to the exhibition center. Well, they will see some of the various products and services that are the innovators as well as tech companies are showcasing this afternoon, to ensure that they are able to show where they are when it comes to digital transformation. Well, we'll take you back to studio.
I want to take this opportunity to invite Kenyans to the Connected Summit that we will be hosting in Diani at the coast this coming week. This is an integral forum that enables all integral stakeholders within the ICT industry to come together, so that as members of the ICT fraternity, we determine the challenges that we are facing, the opportunities available, and the necessary interventions that we need to introduce to facilitate optimal uptake of the opportunities available for us as a country.
Aged between 18 and 35 years comprise 3/4 of the Kenyan population and are a great source of spurring the economic growth of our country. Most of our youth have enormous creativity